Hungary. The winter had been brutal, the summer crops failed, and yet you alone surmounted all these obstacles. Can you tell us about post-war Austria and the vision that saved you?
Well, yes. First of all, let me just say, very dramatic.
Theater!
Wow. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. To be equally as dramatic with the answer. But first I want to just say, I always tell people that they're correct when they say that I'm, a typical American kind of a success story. But they're wrong when they say I am self-made. And this is here a perfect example of that. Because this event wouldn't have come about without the great work of Benedict Taschen and his entire team and the people that run this museum, this academy, without Diane, and without all of you. If I would be self-made, I would be sitting here by myself. Think about that. So I'm a product of millions of people helping me. I mean, you think about it, how do you win governor? 5.5 million people voted for me. Is this self-made? No, they made me the governor. I didn't create myself. So I always say to people is that I'm not self-made. You can call me anything you want, but I'm not self-made. I'm a product of a lot of help. And so I want to say thank you to everyone, all of you out here for coming here today and attending this. And I'm so happy that there was such unbelievable interest in Gold's Gym when I was working out. Every morning, people came up and says, can I come to your event? Can I come to your event? So luckily we did get the tickets, enough tickets for all of the people. So welcome to all the people that are here from Gold's Gym and all the bodybuilders, women and men. I see them all pumped up with the big calves, with the veins. But I always tell them you don't have to oil up when you put a shirt on, so just get all of that. But anyway, so this and there's a lot of friends here, but there's one person that I see out there for some reason or the other. I don't know why. Maybe because he has red hair. It's Mike Medavoy. Mike, stand up here for a second. This is the man that was responsible for the first Terminator movie. And also for Stay Hungry and so many other movies that I did after that. He was the head of studios, many different studios, and I happened to work with the studios, so he always was in some way or the other in charge of my projects. But he's the one that came up to me at one of the screenings and told me that there's a great part for me in Terminator. And the rest is history. So, I mean, it was really fantastic. So we've, of course, stayed friends for many years. Now let's get back to your question. The question. Yeah, Austria was, I was born 2 years after the World War finished. Austria was in a disastrous situation. We were occupied by 4 countries, the French, Americans, the British, and the Russians. And our area where I lived, where I was born, was occupied by the British. And it was, no food was around. I remember that my mother would go and would be gone a lot of times, and she would be going from village to village to beg for food at various different farmers, just so that she has enough food for the family. So, and the men were all depressed because they just lost the war, so they were all still licking their wounds. And you basically grow up with people that are losers. They've just lost the war. They were drinking. They were depressed because of it. Because of the alcohol and because of the drinking, they were kind of sometimes very brutal. Our upbringing was very brutal and very physical. We as kids were beaten many times, slapped around, then other times not. Other times it was pleasant and nice. But it was a kind of an upbringing that was an interesting combination of brutality and the toughness, tough life, little food, no money, no one had anything. But at the same time, it was a beautiful place. I mean, the winters were very romantic and beautiful. The snow was coming down in November, December. We were sledding, we were ice skating and ice curling with my father. The summers were beautiful, the Alps. It's a gorgeous place, Austria. So this was this interesting combination of beauty, but also of a place that I personally did not feel like I belonged there. I had the urge from early childhood on to get out of there. Of course, when you're a kid, you don't know how to do that, but then eventually you get old enough and you get with the program, and then all of a sudden I became obsessed with America. America was the place that won the war. America was the place that was the fastest growing economy. America was the place that was beautiful. So I remember at the age of 10, we saw videos in our classroom about America, and I saw the Golden Gate Bridge, I saw Hollywood, the beaches here in California, the New York skyscrapers, the cars with the huge wings, the 6-lane freeways. I mean, it was just, everything was just so big and so beautiful that I really wanted to come to America, and I felt like I'm much more interested being in America than being in Austria. And so that's what kind of launched my desire to do anything and everything that I could to get out of Austria.
And how did you hit upon bodybuilding as the route? I mean, we know that when boys are poor, they have only their bodies to work with. Was that part of it, that you just looked at what you had?
It became very clear that soccer, that I was playing pretty much every day, this is a big sport in Austria, but it's not an American sport. So I knew that soccer is not going to get me to America, even if I become the greatest soccer player in Austria.
If you can kick the ball across the
So
ocean,
that was out of the
do it.
question. That was out of the question. So bodybuilding, when I saw friends of mine doing bodybuilding on a lake where I grew up, doing the chin-ups, and they lifted weights there, and there were shot putters there, wrestlers and boxers and power lifters and weightlifters and bodybuilders. Everyone was working out there at this lake. I realized very quickly as I got into it that bodybuilding was an American sport. So I felt kind of like I could be another Steve Reeves that eventually did the Hercules movies, and Reg Park, who also was Mr. Universe and did Hercules movies. So they became kind of my idols. And so I would read everything about those world champion in bodybuilding, and I would basically follow everything they did. So when I read that Reg Park was working out 5 hours a day, lifting heavy weights and doing, 50, 60 sets of exercise and lifting 50 tons of weights a day, I would do the same thing. And so, of course, my parents thought that I was a little bit sick in my head, and they thought I was overdoing it, and I was obsessed, and it was bad for my health.
And there were those pictures of men on your bedroom wall.
Right, exactly. So I had, you're absolutely right. I had pictures on my bedroom wall of bodybuilding champions and of boxers and wrestlers, and my mother was always looking at that wall. And she said, all of your friends have pictures of girls. Where did I go wrong? And she would cry. She would stand in front of that wall and cry every day. Until she called the doctor, our house doctor. And she asked him, and he finally said, no, this is quite normal. Kids at this age, they idolize men that are strong, and don't worry about it, he's not gay. And so that was her biggest fear. And I went through all of this, but they were my idols. So I would train, and eventually I started winning competitions, and all of the stuff that I was told you would never make it, became a reality. And I realized then that with the energy and with the belief, 100% belief in my goal, and seeing it very clearly in front of me, visualizing it all the time, seeing that vision in front of me of being a Mr. Universe, being on that stage in London at this palace where Reg Park won and Steve Reeves won and John Grimmick and all those guys won Mr. Universe, that I one day would stand up there on that stage. And it became a reality. So it taught me a lesson.
In the book.
Yes, we have a book. We have a picture in the book when I won the Mr. Universe with the age of 20. So I beat the record. I won Mr. Universe the first time when I was 20 years old. I became the youngest Mr. Universe ever. And from that point on, I started getting letters from Joe Weider, who was the publisher of the muscle magazines in America. He was kind of the king of bodybuilding and strength in America. And he started writing me letters saying you should come to America. So I said to myself, this is really working. And so then finally when I won my second Mr. Universe contest in 1968, with the age of 21, I all of a sudden got this telegram, I'm gonna send you an airline ticket, I want you to come to America, I want you to train with all the champions, you're gonna train in Gold's Gym, I'm gonna take care of everything, don't worry about it. So it was like, we started working on a visa and eventually came over to America and started training in America. And so my dream of coming to America and being part of this great country became a reality. And it was kind of like really the greatest day in my life. I remember arriving in Los Angeles at the airport and I literally kissed the ground of America. I mean, this is how much it meant to me. I was like so overwhelmed that finally I'm in America. So this is how the whole thing really began.
And